Kia ora whānau, and welcome to another episode of Get a Job and Get Healthy with Costas Enterprises. I am your host, Alex Costas, and I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone that listens. I just hit 1,100 listens, which is still shocking to me, given that, this podcast has only been going sort of a year. Today's episode, we are going to go over, well, like the episode title, let's talk about debt, baby. Let's talk about basically my debt, and, the good parts and bad parts of what I've been doing the last year and getting closer and closer to paying off debt. So this is going to be, there's probably going to be a little bit of personal stuff in here that I'm going to share with you guys over my feelings around what I've been doing and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I hope it doesn't get too deep, too emotional. But at the same time, I also hope to put another piece of this out on my blog. I have recently just added my first blog post since October, which was regarding last week's, 2 weeks ago's episode of the 52-week cooking challenge. Sorry, I do still have a bit of a cold and a bit of a cough, unfortunately. So, yeah, I put the first post up since October last year, and that is at costasenterprises.business.blog. Which you can check out if you want. You can also check out my Instagram, at the Kiwi Don. Also email me, doncostas@gmail.com. That's DON for Nike, COSTAS @gmail.com. And yeah, so those are all my deets. Check my deets, as they say. The young kids these days. No, I'm joking. Okay, so let's get into the fun part, talking about debt. So, as of today, I have basically almost paid off all of one of my huge debts. Probably the biggest amount of debt I had at one time, and that was a loan of about $26,000. I acquired this loan, it was a debt consolidation loan. Before that, I was paying, things like MasterCard, credit cards, which I'd maxed out at about sort of $2,000 to $5,000. I was paying off a GE money loan for a TV that I decided to buy after a trip to the States, which I maxed out at about $6,000 because I started using it as a daily card. Don't do that. In fact, try to get off credit cards altogether if you can. Not good. And then I'd also gone to the States twice. One of those, I was paying off a debt of around about 10 grand that I borrowed from the bank, and that was sitting at about, I believe, close to $8,000. And then I also went again to the States sort of 3 years later, and racked up another 10k to 12k debt. Also had debt owing to friends, and also my mum at the time, and all of that equaled around about $26,000 total. Sorry, let me clarify. It equaled about 24,000, and then I got an extra 2 grand because I was planning on moving out when I came back. And so when I came back from my trip, I decided to consolidate all my loans, get everything all in order, pay everything off. And the process was a lot simpler than I thought it was going to be. Now, during this time, of course, we had COVID, we had lockdown, we had all that sort of fun stuff. And my car actually broke down, so I had to buy a brand new car. When I say brand new, I mean second hand, but for me it was brand new. And there was about another 8 grand on there. Now, I've talked about previously that I've paid that car off. That's there was a $5,000 debt from Turner's that I paid. And I did that in less than a year. In fact, within sort of close to sort of 8 months, and I paid it all off. I did get a helping hand from selling some of my dad's cameras, specifically one camera. I sold a couple of cameras and got about $1,000. Put that straight on the car within the first sort of couple of days of getting the car. So that took that debt down to about 4,000, and of course, paying it off earlier means no interest and all that sort of stuff. Now, of course, the reason why I'm talking about this today is my next pay, which will be 2 weeks away, is my last payment for my big loan of 26,000. I do still have a little bit of debt as well. I still owe Mum for her part of giving me money towards the car, which was, at the time, it was about an extra 3,000. So altogether, the car was 8,000. And so I've been paying a little bit off each sort of fortnight to her, but primarily I've been trying to knock out this other debt. Now I am actually paying my big debt off. The car debt was a separate loan, not from the bank, that was from Turners themselves, and I knocked that out pretty quickly. So that 5,000 was done couple of months ago. So I was pretty happy with that. So just under the 12 months. So that shocked me because I was expecting to sort of, have to pay it off as well, like everything else. And the reason why this is all such a big milestone to me is this will be the first time, once I pay off Mum, it'll be the very first time I've been debt-free in about 20 years. Debt has been a very big part of my life. It has been at times crushing, debt, and it's been hard. Wanting to go out, do all the things that I want to do, wanting to travel, and having to borrow money off friends or borrow money off Mum in order to do the things that I wanted to do, and then end up having to pay that back, or borrow from the bank so I can go overseas. I now know that is a bad thing to do. I have learnt my lesson. And yeah, I'm working on my best to try and start building my own money. It's part of the reason why I started everything else. That's why I started the blog. That's why I started the passive income streams. It's the reason why I'm paying what I'm paying. Now, I do work for a living. You guys know this. I do work for the New Zealand government, and I don't, I do get quite a good screw, or good amount of money, as they say, and it's not to the point where I'm going to be like, oh, I'm the richest ever, and I make what I should. I probably should make more, and that's me personally. I should have put more work in, more heart in it, and tried to reach the top of my tier. That's all on me, and I will take accountability for that. But what I have started doing is I've been paying a lot more, and in this last year, I calculated I've paid off I paid off about $18,000 off my loan. So 18,000 out of 26 means I'm supposed to pay off this debt. Was supposed to be completely paid off by December this year. And it's been about a 3-year haul. I was originally paying sort of $350 a week. $350 a fortnight, and that was the base minimum. And I did that for a little bit while I was paying everything else off, and then I increased it to $450 as soon as I could. And that started dropping it quite significantly. Like, I would look at it and I would see it go at like 20k, and I was like, oh my God, 20k. And then, oh my God, 18k. Oh my God, 15k. Oh my God. And so this last couple of months, probably for the last about 6 months, I've been putting about 800 a fortnight on. So I make an extra payment of 350, taking me to basically 800 off the pay every fortnight, 800 off the loan every fortnight. And just when you're looking at the debt and it's that much at the time, you think, God, 800 is not going to do a fucking thing. But actually, just that extra $20, that extra $30, it just can help you so much more. Like it's exactly what they say. So in these self-help books, in these financial books, they will talk about compound interest, and effectively that is what I'm doing, but in the way of paying off my debt. I'm doing it the opposite way. So by putting a regular payment of more than what I'm supposed to, I am taking out that interest that's going to hit me later. And that's what I've noticed as well, is as I've been making my payments, I've seen the dates change from when I'm supposed to pay it all off, because my bank does sort of say, hey, look, this is when the payment has been changed. This is when you'll be able to do this. This was all revolutionary because before you had to go into the office in order to pay any lump sum. And they updated it so that you can just do it through your app. And that has been the easiest thing they could have done and the best thing they could have done to make sure that people can pay it off. Now, I get why they wouldn't want to pay it off, because they want the interest. But when my bank did that and they told me, I was like, okay, I kind of have to. And it did start as me just putting an extra $100 every so often, or $200 when I was able to. One thing I did start doing is when I started selling things, I started putting those payments off other debts. So first off, I wanted to, after listening to sort of David Ramsey's book, he says, first thing you do before you do anything else, get rid of the debt, no matter what it is. Pick one of your debts, pick your biggest debt, pick your smallest debt, pay it off. Then whatever you're paying off, put onto the other debt, And my partner helped me with that as well. She was like, look, you need to start doing this. One of the biggest, so I've talked before about the five love languages, how instrumental that book was in me and my partner building our relationship and strengthening it. Well, something that was going to break it was exactly this debt that I accumulated. It wasn't that she was angry with me for having debt. It was more that I decided to take out more debt. So when I went for my second trip to the States, and I took out an extra loan of, $12,000, and she was like, you're still paying off. You don't need the other debt. And I was in a really bad place mentally, and I thought I needed this trip to sort of shake me up. And in a way it did. This was my trip to New York. And yeah, it did shake me up. It did change me for the better, in some respects, and also for the worse in some of the respects. But, it put me more in debt, but at the same time, it was a nice way to be in debt, if that makes sense. Probably not, but knowing now what I know and the hardships that I've been through to try and get rid of this debt and try to reduce it, I would take it all back. Of course, I would make sure I don't do those sorts of things, and if I did, I would make sure I have money first. So I don't plan to be going trips to anywhere anytime soon without having the money first, rather than borrowing the money. That's what I mean by saying I wouldn't do it again. Like, I would try to, if I could go back to my younger self and say, look, pay off that debt, start saving, that I would do that in a heartbeat. I'd also told me to lose some weight and, stick with it. But, we do what we can. But generally, paying off the debt has been hard. I'm not going to lie. At times, it's sort of right at the start, it felt very fruitless. That no matter what I was doing, I wasn't even getting close to it. That I would never pay it off by the time. And, as I said, I lived in debt for 20 odd years since I started my actual career. I was in debt. I borrowed money. I had other loans. I would buy things. I wouldn't save. I would, all of my money was gone. I would live payday to payday. sometimes payday to the day after payday, and then I would be broke the rest of the time. And to be fair, that still happens now a little bit, but not to the same degree that I was. So how did I do it? How did I manage to get myself out? Well, as I said, I had some very, very great help with, a lot of people. Now, a lot of people have told me, bro, you need to get your money sorted. Um, I was too stubborn to listen, and because it was my money and I earned it, I thought it was my money. I could do whatever I want. It took me having to basically not hit rock bottom, but get pretty fucking low, um, for me to start realizing I need to start doing something about this. And it came to things like, I was living with my mum for a long time. I was, you know, in a relationship with someone and we could never have time together. And if we did, she would pay, I wouldn't pay. And I felt horrible about that. I thought, I need to start sorting this shit out. I need to start sorting this. I want to be able to pay for things in the relationship. I want to be able to pay, I don't want to have to pay her back 100 a week for a date that I had the idea for example. Now that didn't happen, but you know what I mean. It's that sort of, I was going that way and I didn't want to go that way. So yeah, that was part of the reason why I decided to start sorting my shit out, basically. And a lot of that came down to getting assistance and help from my partner. She told me that I could do it, and I believed her. I started paying little bit by little bit by little bit. Um, and I know at the start of the episode I started talking about how I sort of paid off 18,000 in one year off this one debt. That is correct, but when you look at it totally, I actually ended up paying about close to 23,000, which is almost the entirety of what I had to pay the debt, because of the fact that I also had the car that I had to buy as well. And when you look at it like, bit by bit by bit, it's actually probably more closer to 24,000 because of, the money that I paid my mum as well for what she gave me off the car as well. So, yeah, little bit by little bit by little bit is how I started. Um, and, it took me moving out, going to a different place, trying to budget that, and working out that it was actually going to cost me less than what I was paying my mum at the time, for everything to be able to actually survive. Um, I was paying pretty hefty rent with her, and that wasn't inclusive of food and power and all that sort of thing. So I, ended up paying quite a bit more, and it got pretty full on. And then when I finally moved out, I noticed that my rent and stuff started to significantly drop, and I was actually able to start putting a little bit more on. That's when I started sort of increasing the 450 instead of 330, which is what they originally wanted me to pay. And so by doing that, I just knocked off about. I mean, basically by me increasing it by that extra 100, 100 and 70. I was knocking off thousands of dollars of extra debt. When I originally went for the loan, they said that at the end I would be paying close to 18% to 24%, after the first year, and it was going to be very very full on. Like we're talking at least an extra maybe 10k in interest if I'd let it pass, and I ended up paying it back by the original date at the minimum amount. Now, I wanted to pay, when I went in for the actual debt consolidation loan, the process was as I said, it was quite easy. I just had to get, confirmation of who I owed debt to, and then once they gave me the money, I had to go through a vetting process, of course, as you always do. I explained my circumstances. They said, "Look, we do want to help you," and this is my own personal bank as well, the one that I've been with since I've been a child. So I didn't shop around for debt consolidation loans. I did get calls from places like G Money or Gem or whatever you want to call them, whatever they decide to call themselves now, saying, "Hey, do you want to? We'll take care of your debt consolidation." Sorry, and it was going to cost something stupid like 24% from the start. And I was at that point where I was actually seriously considering it, because I thought, if I don't get from my bank, then I'm not going to get anything. And so, yeah, I mean, I managed to get it from the bank, and they said, "Look, we'll pay it off. You've got to provide evidence that you've paid it," and they have to give you verification. And they included things like my family debt and all that sort of stuff as well. So that was really, really helpful, and the whole process took about maybe 1 to 1.5 months for me to do, and then I paid everyone off. Um, I was at the start finding it quite hard to manage, given with the rent and all that sort of stuff as well, which is when I moved out. And then even when I'd moved out, I'd found it a little bit hard also to pay off extra. But anytime I did have extra money, like at least sort of close to, well, the first time I ended up getting like an extra 1,000, and I put that on the loan. This is, sorry, not the same 1,000 that I put on the car. This is actually on the loan itself. In the first sort of year, so every year we get a pay increase for our government jobs. Well, we did until like recently. And we would get back pay for a couple of months. And, on paper, it seems like it's quite a bit that you get paid, but, when it comes into your hand, it's only close to like 700, 800. So I put an extra, like, 300 from my my pay that I had, and put 1,000 on when that money came in. And, during that time, I really wanted to buy, like, the latest whiz bang sort of thing that comes out. And I always have that. It always happens around about the time that I get my pay. Maybe a new console will come out and I want to play it. Or there'll be, maybe I want a new phone, or I want a new computer or something. And for the last sort of couple of years, I've used that money to pay off my debt, to reduce my debt. But before that, I would be like, right, time to get a new phone. I've had my phone for like 2 years. It's starting to die, yada, yada, yada. The phone that I'm using now is a Samsung S7 Edge. So as you can imagine, they're up to the S21 now, and I've had this phone for about 4 years. I did, again, that was another thing that I'd bought on credit, and it took me 2 years to pay that off. I did pay it off pretty quickly, but I'm doing that with 2 degrees. They have been amazing and fantastic. And if you are in New Zealand and you do need a mobile network, I would say seriously consider going to 2 degrees, unless you've had a bad experience with them, because they've been really, really good for me. And so, yeah, I ended up paying off my Samsung. And at the time, I bought it when it was brand new. I upgraded, basically, quite significantly upgraded. And now the phone is starting to get a bit crappy, and it is starting to die. But then I use it quite significantly every day. It's not like it's left, I don't underuse it, let's put it that way. So yeah, it's as I said, a lot of things were paying off other things and paying off other things. Like when I bought my TV, I originally did that because when I came back from the States the first time, I basically had some US cash which I got converted. Ended up being about $800, $900, and I was like, oh, I want to buy a new PlayStation 4 because the PS4 Pro had come out, and I knew I had enough for it. And that was my first time buying a brand new version of a console, apart from the Wii, which we don't talk about the Wii because no one uses the Wii anymore. But I had I'd never had a PS4 before that. My friends had, and I was still rocking the PS3. I usually get when the console comes out, I usually get the console after that when that next one comes in. So, as for example, with the PS5, like I would love to get a PS5 now, but being realistic, I will probably wait until the PS5 Pro comes out in a couple of years, being realistic. Um, and I'm okay with that because, you know, everything that I use in the PS4 Pro is still pretty bloody fantastic. You know, I play a little bit of Fortnite, and that is, you know, it runs fine. Let's put it that way. Um, but as always, I want the latest thing, and you know, I've learnt to not have to get it, and it's okay to wait. Um, and same with phones. So I am looking at a new phone, as I've just said. And even though the S21 is out now, I'm actually considering getting an S20 Ultra. So last year's model, and the reason for that is one, the price. And two, the Ultra will do everything that I want it to. I want to start being able to do YouTube content, and vlogs, and do these sort of podcasts as a video cast as well. Um, and basically build that following as well. So do look for that at some point in time. But that will be probably a couple more months away. And yeah, so that's the general plan of doing that. But after learning of what I've done before, where I've paid things off, like Afterpay is another thing. Stay away from Afterpay. Yes, it's tempting to have everything pay off in 4 weeks, and usually it is fine. But it's those off weeks when you don't get paid. Like for me, I get paid fortnightly. If I don't have that money in my account, then it defaults, and I get charged an extra $25. And given that I get paid fortnightly, I've done Afterpay a couple of times for different things, and sometimes it's worked. Don't get me wrong. Like when I had a Christmas jersey that I had to buy because we were having Christmas at the races, and it was coming from England, Boho, Australia, I think it was, but it actually turned out to be England. And no one else was selling them my size, and didn't really have any cool ones, and they weren't going to get there in time. Boho, I got it from them for like something stupid, like $25. I mean, the delivery fee was more expensive, and I used Afterpay for that because at the time I only had, you know, 20 odd dollars, and it was only going to cost me like $15 to start off with, and then in 4 weeks' time I'd be able to pay it off. So I did that. In those sort of instances, you know, I can use Afterpay because I had a little bit of extra money coming in the next pay that I could use to pay it off. And that's what I try to do now. I try to pay everything off straight away. I don't try to go for the longer and let the money accrue slowly over. I basically want to pay everything off quicker, faster, easier. Um, and that is pretty much how I managed to take out the huge amount of 26,000, sorry, 24,000 that I've paid this last year, is because I've done exactly that. As I said, I was paying 800 on my loan, and then I was paying mum, and then I was paying my other one. So I was left with about, you know, I'm going to be honest, I was left with about $100 to $200 after rent, food, all that sort of thing came out. And one of the things I did do is, when I first started this podcast, I was living in a place in Mapuia with my neighbours from mum's place. It sounds really weird, but I was flatting with them, and it was amazing. I loved it. It was a great place. Beautiful view. It wasn't cheap, not going to lie, but at the same time, it was quite good. It was quite central. We got into lockdown, so we didn't have to go anywhere, so we saved quite a bit of money there during that time. But then, when we moved out, I came to move in with my partner here. So we've been here almost a year together, and the rent is significantly less. Like, it's inclusive of power, it's inclusive of internet, and it's $160 a week, which is just, let's be honest, it's crazy. That's such a small price for a place in Brooklyn, in Wellington. Like, Wellington is one of the the most expensive for flats at the moment. And yeah, it was just really, really surprising to get it. And, I do have my own room here. Like, I finally feel like I have my own room and my own space, which is fantastic. It's not only been great for me financially, it's been great for me physically, it's been great for me mentally. Yeah, really, really fantastic. But because I was doing that, me and my partner decided that what we're going to do is we each pay for a week of rent and food that week. So, when I was paying close to, to 460 just for the rent, and then food was an extra 200 per week or 150 per week, and then, all my other debts. Now I was paying, 500, and then that was it. It's like 500 for everything. And that covers both of our rents for thing and our food, because we live close to the markets. We can go to the markets on Sunday, get like farmers market, sorry, and get very little from the supermarket. So we're living cheaper. We're taking our food from home. We're cooking a lot more. Which, as you guys know, I'm now cooking a lot more as well. And that sort of thing's been really, really cool to sort of take that on. So yeah, I that is pretty much how I started to reduce the debt. And going forward, I've got a couple of things that I'm going to do. As I said, my next pay, I've only got like a 260 bucks left. That's all I've got to pay. And then that huge debt that I had, the loan is gone. I then have to pay off my mum the rest, which will be, let's be realistic, it's going to be another two pays. Then what I plan to do is actually save sort of $1,000 as an emergency fund. And after that $1,000 has been saved, then I will look at putting aside money for my phone that I want. So if my phone can last out another, let's be real, another 2 months, 3 months, then I'm okay. I'm good. I'm Gucci. So yeah, it's going to be good. I will also increase. So for those that don't know, I also have a state service retirement scheme, which is it came in before KiwiSaver, and KiwiSaver has been something that a lot of Kiwis do get. And what it is, it's basically for my American listeners, it's kind of like our 401k, but it's a government one that government puts in money and your employer puts in money, and they will match you not dollar for dollar, but up to about 3%. So you can put in 3%, they'll put in 3%. And yeah, it's not a lot of money, but if you start it early enough, then over time it compounds, and you can choose: do you want it to be aggressive? Do you want it to be passive, balanced, conservative? And there are portfolios that you can go into that you can change up. So at the moment, mine's currently 3%. Now the reason it's 3% is when me and my partner went into a sort of a mortgage broker, we were looking at a house and we were like, oh, I wonder if we could do this. And when he saw my debt, he was like, right, well, part of the motivation for me wanting to get rid of this debt is because he turned around and said, look, at the moment, based on what it is that you've got, based on your money, I can lend you this. And then I was like, okay, cool, cool, cool. He goes, but because of your debt, we can actually only lend you this. And I'm not going to lie, it was literally 100,000 was taken off. Even though at that time I only had about 19,000 in that debt. Now this is before I had the car. This is sort of like just on the cusp of me starting to do it, knowing that I was going to pay it off quicker. And so just seeing the impact of the, oh sorry, it wasn't 19,000. It was about 17,000 when I had it. And him just going, look, we can only lend you this. And me going, wait, that's 100,000 and I've only got a debt of that. And by the time I get it, that debt will be gone. So he's like, look, that's what we can do. So yeah, I've I've told my partner that I don't want to get a house until I've paid off my debt, at least. Get a bit of capital. But one of the things I am going to do, starting this week, I'm going to contact our HR department, and I'm going to increase my voluntary up to 10%. So 10% of my salary will start going into my retirement fund so that I can use that money to buy a house. So over here, you can take out your retirement fund if you get sick, like to the point like you're terminally sick. If you're a first home buyer, or when you retire, or when you turn 50 and you're going to retire. So at this stage, I'm like, okay, I've got another 20 years until I turn, well, okay, another 11 years until I turn 50. I kind of want a house sooner rather than later. And that will be the goal, is basically take that money out. That money will be used as a deposit for buying our first house. And me and my partner will both put in, and we will try to pay off that house within 10 years. That's the goal. So that we actually have a home, we have a place to stay, and then your KiwiSaver will stay there the whole time. So even if I take the money out, there's still 1,000 in there, and then it just starts building up. So I will, of course, transfer everything into an aggressive fund and just try to build it, so that by the time I do decide to retire, anything that is in there is extra money that I can take out. And to give you an example of how amazing the KiwiSaver is, my mother, when she turned sort of 60, she was putting aside $20. Now, KiwiSaver can be taken out when you turn 65. She put in $20 every week, just $20, the base minimum, because she was a beneficiary and a New Zealand super. So $20 has now turned over the last sort of maybe 10 years into $17,000 to $18,000, and that's on a balance. That's not even on an aggressive. So for those people that are listening to this podcast that are not sure whether or not they should get into a retirement scheme, they're sort of wondering, that example right there shows you that the compounding of interest that comes with you just putting aside just $20, turning into close to $18,000, is shocking. And if you start young, if you start sort of even at 20, even at 25, even at 30, every little bit that you put in will grow. That is the whole point of compound interest, which, as I said, all of the books talk about compound this, all compound interest. So if you take nothing else away from this podcast today, reduce your debt quick. While you're reducing your debt, join a 401k or if you're a KiwiSaver. You can't get into the state service retirement scheme anymore, unfortunately. But if you have the opportunity to opt in, opt in. If you have the opportunity to voluntarily put money in yourself, do that. Work with what it is that you've got. Okay, I'm not a financial planner. I won't be doing a budget for you, but take a look at your circumstances. How much debt are you paying? How much money are you getting? Can you save any of it over and atop what you need to pay for everything else? Like, I had to do that. I had to go through a budget, decide what I was going to do, how was I going to pay this, how was I going to do this, and I stuck to it. I asked my friends, can you help me with this? I need to help. Because I was useless with my money, as you guys can obviously tell, from being in debt as much as I am. Now, I know I'm not in as much debt as others, like people that are students that have student loans of like 50k. I never got a student loan. Had I had the opportunity, I probably would have gotten a student loan, but I would still be in the same predicament I'm in fact, probably deeper in. So, if you take nothing else away, start paying off that debt. Pick a debt. Pick any. If you've got 4 or 5 debts, think about consolidating them. Like literally, think about it. If you can't, then pick the smallest one, pay it. Or pick the biggest one and pay it. One of the two. Don't go for the middles. Don't go a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. Like, if you have to pick one, pay your minimums on the other, or if you can, increase them by $20 each. Just that little bit extra. Even $5 extra will help you in the long run. If you can make it $100, perfect. But being realistic, if you've got like 4 debts and you can't consolidate them, just, do what you can. But don't put yourself in hardship. Because, as I said, at the end of every week, I have about $100. Now, that includes things like petrol and all that sort of stuff. And that $100 doesn't go far. It goes pretty quick, you know. So I put myself in hardship to pay off my debt quicker. I'm not suggesting people do that, but I wanted to pay mine off so that I can get a home, so that I can start saving, so that I can get rid of this debt from my life. Would I do it again? If I had to? Hells yes. I wish I'd done it years before. I wish I had woke myself up with what I needed to. I hope you guys learn from my experiences. I hope you guys take to what I've talked about and go, you know what? Yeah, I am going to pay off that debt. Or if you don't have debt, think about investing. I've talked about passive income. Part of the reason I did the passive income was exactly for this reason, because I had spare time and thought, how can I reduce my debt more? What can I do? I started selling things on TradeMe that I don't use anymore. I started selling things on passive income through things like Teespring and all that sort of stuff. All of that happened because of this, because I had crumbling debt and decided I need to sell it. I need to get rid of everything. I need to get better, basically. So, learn from my mistakes. Now, you'll hear some books be like, oh, debt can be good for you. Yes, debt can be good for you if you can control it. I don't know about you, but I know myself, and I can't control myself around debt. So for me, I don't want that anymore. I want to get out of debt. And once I do pay off this main thing, I am going to start building up my other accounts that I've got. And if you do want more reading, you can go to things like, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You can go to David Ramsey's The Money Makeover. You can go to TJ Harvey's The Millionaire Mindset. TJ Harvey's Millionaire Mindset is pretty amazing. That's one where they talk about seven bank accounts to help you build your things. David Ramsey, though, that's the one. That's the one that's all about get rid of your debt. Basically, just whatever you can do, pay it off quick, get it out. Because as soon as you do, then you can start building. Now, David Ramsey has a system of 3 bank accounts. TJ Harvey has like a 7 bank account one. His is more focused for the people that can control their debt. David Ramsey's is all about getting you to that point where you can then start the TJ Harvey one. That's the way I look at it. But yeah, have a look at those sorts of books. Have a look at getting rid of your own debt if you do have debt. You are welcome to contact me, doncostas@gmail.com, and I can, as I said, I'm not a financial planner, but you might be like, hey bro, what do I do? I'm not exactly sure. And we can have a talk about it. That's all it is. We can have a discussion and go, right, well, which one has the worst interest? Which one, there's all these sorts of factors that you have to look into. And all I can say is pick one. If you want, pick the biggest one. I know it's harder, and I'm not saying neglect your other ones, but what I'm saying is if you can add more to your bigger debt and get rid of that quicker, the others will flow. And then, still keep paying your other debts. Don't stop paying them. Because a lot of people do that. They go, right, well, I've got to get rid of this biggest debt. I've got to get rid of it. And David Ramsey does say that as well. He does sort of say, look, get rid of your other debts. But what I don't think people understand is sometimes some of these people's debts are huge. They're massive debts. And, there are things like defaults. There are things like, especially if you're dealing with bank debts, like you don't make a payment, they will take your ass to court and then take you for everything you own. So keep paying everything. Like if you have to reduce the rest to the just above the minimum, do that. Seriously, do that. But yeah, I have learned a lot, and I will keep you guys updated. There'll probably be another podcast in the next couple of weeks, and I'll be like, oh my god, I paid it off. Yeah, party time. But then I have to catch myself and go, actually, no, not party time, because I need to pay off this, or I need to do this. Like I have written myself a sort of a plan of what I want to do. So that's exactly what I will do. Now the giveaway is closed. Unfortunately, no one actually entered it. So when we hit 2,000 listens, we will update that, and it will be even more stuff for you guys. If you do want my services, you are more than welcome to contact me. We can always talk about this. Unfortunately, as no one entered, that means there's no Q&A. So I will just have to assume that what you guys want to know about me and go from there. If you do have any questions, though, please do hit me up. As I said, doncostas@gmail.com. You can read my blogs, costasenterprises.business.blog, or alternatively, you can contact me on @thekiwidon through Instagram. I'm also on LinkedIn under Alexander George Nicholas Costas. So, yeah, feel free to hit me up. This has been a long one, and it's been a pretty real one as well. So, to all those people that have helped me on this journey, thank you. If you are listening, I appreciate you. I really, really appreciate you. I am sorry I'm so stubborn. I am sorry that it took me this long to get my shit together. To those listening, thank you again for listening. Like, this is a lot of ramblings here. I have had to split this podcast up into two, so I hope I'm going to try and join them together, so hopefully the segments will join and not be backgrounds. There is a part one, which I am hoping this will help, but until next time, as always, guys, I love you, be good, and forever good luck.